You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode.
Spectrum is green in FAB Facts.
We're flying off to Paris for the Randomiser.
And Lubna Kerr is back for part 2 of my interview with Lubna Kerr.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what came with me there. That's all coming up in Pod 149.
Of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
FAB.
1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Well, you're enjoying yourself, aren't you?
Well, as is my want and possibly right to enjoy myself, especially after such a lovely Gerry Anderson day last week.
Yes, wasn't that fantastic?
Yeah, everyone, thank you so much for being a part of that. I hope you all enjoyed it. I mean, certainly lots of you have told us you did enjoy it, and there were lots of great things going on. You know, a few little hiccups along the way, but I mean, that's bound to happen in a day as positive as that, isn't it? Anyway, yes, thank you for being with us, but we can all relax a bit. I think this Pod 149 of the Gerry Anderson podcast is going to be a little bit more sedated, a bit more relaxed.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, so, I mean, Richard, do you think possibly you could give us the intro to what people might expect for this episode in the style of a kind of smooth jazz commentary kind of guy, you know?
Yeah, good idea.
So, well, I'm Jamie Anderson, over there is Chris Dale, and I'm going to hand over now to Richard James.
You're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Coming up in today's edition, we've got Fab Facts any moment now. A little later on, we'll be heading on over to Gerry Anderson News, followed in pretty short order by part 2 of my interview with comedian, actress and writer Lubna Kerr. And last but, hey, no means least, Chris Dale's amazing randomiser. And amongst all that, I'll have a liberal sprinkling of your emails, tweets and Facebook posts. The Gerry Anderson podcast. It doesn't get better than this.
Oh,
that sounded a bit like a warning, didn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better. That's it. It's as good as it gets.
No, I thought that was lovely.
Yeah, until I ruined it at the end.
No, I feel so relaxed now. That was great.
Yeah, my pleasure. That's what I'm here for.
And I mean, and you did that, with no warning from me either. So most impressive.
Who do I invoice?
Ernie Anderson.
My agent. Okay, fine. I'll make a note.
Yeah, he's waiting for your invoice. Anyway, now, gosh, I must wake up again. What a lovely intro. All that stuff and more, probably, in the Gerry Anderson podcast, which you're listening to right now. But we always customarily get the kind of content part going with something...
Always.
That we like to call...
Every week.
Okay. Part of the show we like to call...
Yeah. Fab
Facts.
Fab Facts, yeah.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Well, Richard, I'm still feeling quite relaxed after your intro. So
good.
Here's my relaxed description of this segment. It's called Fab Facts. I've got a book that's brimming with Fab Facts. Yeah. I'm going to flick through that book, and at a random point, Richard's going to shout the word Fab. Yeah. And at that point, I'll stop flicking, and then I will read you a Fab Fact from the book. Richard James, are you ready with your fab?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Good, because I've got the book. So here we go.
Fab!
Oof.
What?
Well, I can tell you that we're on page 138 of the Tome of Fab Facts.
Right.
Richard, have you ever wondered what an Anderson series starring a robot might have been like?
I'll say yes.
Okay, well, I mean, some could argue that in shows like Fireball XL5, Terrorhawks, or maybe even Space Precinct, that the robot characters were perhaps more popular than the human ones.
What? What, slow-mo? I suppose I wasn't a human character, was I? So, okay, I'll let that pass.
I'm talking about, Sergeant Major Zero of the Zeroids being more popular than Einstein in Terrorhawks. Anyway,
yeah.
We're talking about a classic Anderson series that originally intended for its lead character to basically be a robot.
Oh.
That series, and indeed that character, was the original Captain Scarlet.
Really?
Now, to explain this, we will have to go back to Dad and Sylvia's original script for The Podsterons. It follows pretty much the exact same story as the final television version, with some interesting unused ideas, including some interesting notes at the beginning and end that hint that maybe they were thinking that the Podsteron replicas might be more robotic than the flesh and blood duplicates we see on screen.
Right.
In the original script, just after the Podsterons declare war on Earth, we would cut to Cloudbase, where the standard Podsteron threat sequence that we see in all the episodes on television would play out. Where the Podsterons talk about their plans to kill the world president as Podsteron rings pass over the Colonel White and the Angels and Lieutenant Green, who doesn't even get his own credit in the show, and of course Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
This is how the first draft script of the Podsterons introduces him.
Oh.
We are looking at him through a glass panel on which is etched a printed circuit in silver and gold. The setup symbolises a mechanical man. He is rigid without a trace of movement. Over the shot is superimposed, starring Captain Scarlet.
Ah.
There you go. So, while this is not conclusive evidence on its own, it seems that Dad and Sylvia were thinking about Scarlet being more machine than man. Now, although none of that idea makes it to the screen, one tiny remnant does survive in the Introducing Captain Scarlet mini-album, which was the first in a series of 5 audio adventures released in the late 1960s, featuring many of the original cast, and obviously was reissued by Big Finish a few years ago.
Yeah.
At the end of the story, Dr. Fawn announces that, with the aid of a specially designed computer, Captain Scarlet can be brought back under our own control. And Colonel White is excited by the possibilities. Well, that idea and much of the dialogue is a reworking of the Colonel's dialogue from the original scripted ending of the Podsterons.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that was to be the note on which the first episode was planned to end, and the closing titles would then play, not over the famous Ron Embleton paintings that we all know and love, but, let's look back to the script. End titles. These will comprise of still shots of Captain Scarlet in association with computers, printed circuits, and electrodes, thus conveying the premise that Captain Scarlet is a mechanical man.
Oh.
So, the big question, I guess, then, is how would the series that we know and love have proceeded from there? Would Scarlet have had any emotions or free will? Would he have just been told what to do by Captain Blue? We have no idea, but it is interesting to think about. Now, as much as we all love Captain Scarlet, and the show wasn't the most character-focused Anderson series ever made, it's kind of strange to imagine that Dad and Sylvia were originally thinking along these strange lines for their new leading man.
Yes.
So there you go.
Well, and ultimately, of course, it was to become Dick Spanner. As a mechanical leading man.
You're quite right. And what a different show that was. I mean, can you imagine the mashup of Captain Scarlet and Dick Spanner?
I want to see that.
Dick Scarlet?
Yes, that would work.
Why not? Fascinating. But there you go. It's interesting where ideas evolve from and then how they change over time and things that get left behind, isn't it? It's just...
yeah, absolutely.
I think it would have been less scary, actually, if Scarlet was mechanical in some way. It's kind of
because you lose that human threat.
Yeah, and it's the sort of the non-corporeal, kind of semi-spiritual control and flesh and blood replica that's almost impossible to tell apart from humans.
Yes.
I know, it's spookier and more interesting, so I'm glad they settled where they did. But there you go. It could have been Robot Captain Scarlet.
Imagine.
Well, we just did. Anyway, I think that brings us robotically to the end of this week's Mechanical Fact.
Now that explains your Robert the Robot impression.
Impression is a good word. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I see what you're going to. Now, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. We're here for the next hour or so with all your usual favourite stuff. Don't forget, you can subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on and leave us a nice review and a rating, and we might even read that out. And also share us with your friends so they get to hear us too. You can, of course, also email us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, just as these few Podsterons did over the past week or so. Ian, for example, says, "Hi, Jamie and Richard. To answer something that was mentioned way back in Pod 146 with regard to who could portray the legendary time traveller from the Anderverse, well, Jamie, you don't need to look too far for the answer. Oh, yes, we were asking who from the Gerry Anderson universe might play Doctor Who. Ian says it's the one and only Richard James, if only to give him a different show to drop into the conversation and give Space Precinct a bit of a rest." He says, on another point, how about letting Chris Dale join in on the podcast from time to time, apart from the randomiser, of course? He seems to be just an odd job man until he comes to his time for his part in the show. I don't think he minds.
I can tell you that Chris is not an odd job man. He is extremely busy doing many, many things, which is why he has no time for this stuff and nonsense.
Quite right. Ian continues, seriously though, having the three of you will be quite an interesting mix, maybe as a one-off to see if it works. Anyway, my jovial Richard bashing done. All that's left to say once again is thanks to all at Anderson Entertainment and everything they've done / are doing, because as you're telling us, and this is where Richard says his line about new stuff happening, I hope you don't mind the teasing. All kindest regards from Ian. I think I sort of made sense of that email, Ian. Chris got in touch to say, "Hi, Jamie, Richard and Chris. Firstly, let me say how much I'm enjoying the podcast. The recent interviews with Richard Harvey and David Hirsch have been particularly fascinating. I wanted to write and say that I've been rewatching New Captain Scarlet and I've been reminded of what a great show it is, really building on the original concept and adding more layers of intrigue, great storylines and amazing vehicles. I think the final two episodes, Grey Skulls and Dominion, easily compare with the best episodes from any other Anderson series. But, says Chris, as we know, not least from the Randomiser General himself, Chris Dale, there is a lost episode which was never made because it was decided the content was too scary for a family audience, that episode being House of Dolls. So, I would love to know if anything survives from the planning of that production, a draft script, storyboards, concept art. It would be fascinating to see where they were thinking of taking the show with that particular episode. Also, any chance of a vault-type book for New Captain Scarlet to really showcase the fantastic concept artwork and also the vehicle designs of Dom Lavery as shown in the extras on the Blu-ray. Keep up the great work, and I'm looking forward to all the great new content which will be coming soon. Best wishes from Chris. Rather a lot there, Jamie. So,
yes, can you break it down for me?
Yes, exactly. Just small bite-sized chunks. Tell us about House of Dolls and whether that might make an appearance in some form.
Phil Ford absolutely has a script of that. I think it was killed off in production before it got to going into pre-production as such, as in concept stuff. So there's not a lot around for it. There's certainly some stuff we'd like to do with it, but it is it's a short one-off, a 25-minute, so it hasn't really got the scope to be turned into anything like a graphic novel. But I have talked to Phil about it, and there's certainly potential for it. It's just right now, there's a bit too much going on in other areas, but we'll get there.
Yes. Yeah. Chris Moore got in touch. Now, the subject of his email was Podcast 147, A Missed Opportunity.
Oh, well, we've definitely missed it because we're in Pod 149 now.
Yeah. Also, I think that pretty much sums up the whole podcast, doesn't it? He says, it was nice to hear Pod 147 this afternoon, but I feel you missed an opportunity. If you look at a photograph of the Eagle cockpit interior from Space 1999, you will see the number 147 above the door. The number on the door varies, but 147 is always above the door. I'm not sure how you could have commemorated this fact, but then I'm not as creative as you guys. By the way, it was nice to hear Richard's interview with Stephen Gallagher, as we were both members of an SF fan group in Bolton in the early 80s. I will remember those evenings spent skulking in a corner of a pub, most of us trying to make half a pint of bitter last all evening and pestering Steve about his Doctor Who work, because we weren't interested in anything else he did. No wonder he left. That's all the best from Chris Moore. Well, that's a good spot. 147 on the above the Eagle doors.
Yeah,
have a look.
I wouldn't have I wouldn't have got that, I'm afraid. But, that's the sort of thing that Chris Dale should have known about. Come on,
Yes.
Chris, what have you been doing?
Right.
We've been doing the randomiser and other things and, writing
Slacking.
articles. And,
Yeah. Nigel got in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk to say, "Dear Jamie and Richard, I've just caught up late to the party, but after discovering the podcast back in November, I've been working my way through the first one." What an absolute delight. I've been an Anderson fan for about 50 years, my level of involvement rising and falling as life's priorities changed. The podcast has renewed that enthusiasm and revealed so much about the shows I never knew. The mix of guests has been excellent, and it's been fascinating to hear of the many different ways people have been influenced by Gerry's creativity. During my career as a television cameraman, I've had a few Anderson moments. Back in, I think, 1990, meeting David Graham, the original Parker, and Lady Penelope puppets was a thrill, and the chance to talk with Sylvia Anderson after an interview is lovely. The same cannot be said for the time I had to appear on screen during the Ross King daytime show dressed as an international rescue costume, or rather in an international rescue costume, for a competition giving away a load of Thunderbirds toys. Thankfully, Jamie, to make up for that, a few weeks later I met both Gerry and Mary and had the chance to thank your father for what he brought to my childhood. He was somewhat shy and reserved, but generous with his time, and it's a conversation that I will never forget. My thanks to both of you for this podcast. I love the gentle style, that sense of being among friends, sharing a common interest. It's an absolute winner. Yours sincerely, Nigel. He then continued, also, Repod 147 and the US video releases of Space 1999 featuring Sybil Danning. Sybil has made quite a visual impact in the sci-fi world, with a scantily clad role in the 1980 film Battle Beyond the Stars. This low-budget Roger Corman film has become a cult classic. The US distributor was obviously hoping to play on that fame by effectively having her play the same character in their intros to Space 1999. Kind regards, again, from Nigel. Interesting. Very good. So we do love to hear from you. Simply drop us a line, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and I'll read out your emails next time.
Excellent. We do also get some comments on our website, Richard James, and I have one to share with you here about the Sybil Danning fact.
Oh, go on.
And this is from Paul. Paul says, "This is total BS."
Oh.
I have
is that it?
No, he's a bit more. He says, I've been to every 1999 con that BB and ML, I guess that's Barbara Bain and Martin Landau, attended, and was responsible in some cases. And not only did they not do what this says, there were not Sybil Danning tapes for sale at any of those cons, and they were never shown.
Oh.
Well, that's us told, potentially.
Put it our place, absolutely. Yeah.
So thanks for the feedback, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I mean, he knows. That's all right.
Exactly. So there we go. Now, Richard James, would you like some Gerry Anderson news?
Oh, what? Even after last week, you're telling me there's more news?
Well, I think it'll be a bit more sedate this week. But yes, let's have some Gerry Anderson news.
Oh, go on then.
So, Richard James, how would you like to introduce this?
I think I'd probably like to say something along the lines of newsy news.
Great.
And stick a hashtag in front of it.
Oh, hashtag news. Very good.
Yeah,
well, let's begin this hashtag newsy news with this one. Well, let's start with a catch-up of everything Gerry Anderson Day.
Oh, yeah.
What a day it was. Goodness me. It was very busy. Lots of fun. Thank you all so much for getting involved. If you haven't already listened to the bonus podcast episode, then, well, you should do that immediately. gerryanderson.co.uk/GADaypod, because there's a bonus in there with some interactive features. You can still catch up on Fab Live. You can still rent Network's Night In and BritBox's. Gerry Anderson, The Greatest Episodes features are still available for the next few months, so enjoy those.
Yeah.
Speaking of Gerry Anderson Day, if you would like a Gerry Anderson Day t-shirt, they go off sale tomorrow at midnight. That is Tuesday. So make sure you grab it ASAP. What would you like to see for next year's Gerry Anderson Day? We've got all sorts of fun stuff planned, but I would love to know what you would like. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and we'll take your suggestions into consideration. And finally, for this brief bit of news, did you see on Gerry Anderson Day, we found Dad's directorial debut? You've never seen this? Well,
no.
We knew one episode existed in the BFI archive because we put it out on the Lost Worlds of Gerry Anderson. All the other episodes were thought to be lost, and yet the clever people at Network, particularly Tim Beddoes, who actually discovered these, found 1 partial and 2 full episodes of You've Never Seen This. Now, we don't believe these have been broadcast since 1955, if they even were broadcast then. Stories differ, we can't quite tell, but chances are very few people have ever seen these, and we've got the original 35mm negs. They are being scanned and restored right now. In fact, just before we recorded this, I spoke to Tim Beddoes, who was just handing over a hard drive with the newly scanned material for restoration, and we will do our best to make those available very, very soon. They're sort of a 1950s Euro trash, if you will, going around Europe looking at strange and weird and wonderful people and things, and I can't wait to see them. So There we go. Even after all these years, amazing things still do turn up in the archives. But seeing as it is just after Gerry Anderson Day, I think that's probably enough for this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news! That was the news!
Well,
love a bit of Gerry Anderson news.
Yeah, and especially when it's rounded off with you being in such fine voice.
Oh, you're so kind.
I try.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yes.
What else have you got from around the Podsteron universe, Dickie James? Anything?
Well, now, let's head on over to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups Podsterons. There's a new name for them, but I think I prefer Podsterons.
Me too.
And see what they've been getting up to. Miles Parrish, for example, has posted, did Barbara Bain ever trademark that odd quarter turn she does towards the camera in Space 1999 whenever she wants to make a point? I like that.
Not sure you can
detail,
trademark a quarter turn, can you?
I mean, you should certainly copyright the way you look at me when I diss your fab facts at the beginning of each podcast.
Well, yes. I mean, what's that? The Dickie Stink Eye?
That's the one. Yeah. TM. David Mackenzie says, David Mitten, who directed the Thomas the Tank Engine series, worked alongside Gerry and Sylvia in the 1960s. He later went on to create a little series called Tugs, which wasn't as well known as Thomas. However, I had every episode on VHS when I was a child, and I recently found out that the Tugs models had been found and restored and are now on display in Derbyshire. Thought it would be good to share an extended interest. Interesting, David. There's a bit of a crossover between Gerry Anderson's stuff and Tugs and Thomas the Tank Engine. I wonder if it's that model thing, isn't it? It's that the details in the model probably that catches the eye. Johan Huth, for example, says, I love Tugs and the music was so good. And Hugh Porter says, yeah, I love this show. I rewatched it not too long ago, actually. So a bit of love out there for Tugs.
It's interesting. I do see it mentioned quite a lot, but I've never seen it.
No, I haven't either. Rob Buck posted the latest from the When Worlds Collide department. Not sure if anyone else has caught this or if anyone is interested, but I was listening to the latest entry in the Steve Hogarth, lead singer of Maréchal, podcast series and came across a very random Anderverse reference. The podcast is dedicated to observations and ramblings made by Hogarth, or H as he's known to fans, as well as readings from his diaries of life on the road with the band. Well, in the 49th episode, he's only done 49 episodes.
Just wait till you get to 149, mate.
What an amateur. As H was reading the diary entries tied to the band's visit to Poland in the early to mid-90s, he makes an observation about the numbering of apartment buildings and how it reminded him of a certain font used for numbering various crafts that might be used for internationally focused rescues. The fun part is that after reading the old diary entry, H embellishes the story by humming a quick musical interlude that further sets the tone. This was a most pleasant, if not surprising, collision of two of my favourite topics and two of my favourite podcasts. Well, that's nice, isn't it? And John Quinn says, I watched the film Journey to the Far Side of the Sun today on Blu-ray after a long while. It still stands up as a very stylish film to me after all these years. So many crossovers from UFO, including actors, cars, props, music, and even costumes. When I was very young, I used to get the two of them confused, and it's easy to see why. Today, I spotted the dress that's worn by the journalist in the UFO episode, The Responsibility Seat, also worn by Lise Hartman, which I don't recall spotting before. Also, Barry Gray's music is gorgeous, and one other thing I hadn't spotted before is that the umlaut on Doppelganger on the Dove ship seems to come and go, perhaps showing us different models each time.
Good spot. Yeah, it probably does. How funny.
Yeah. And finally, who doesn't want a quickfire 5?
Me?
Well, here it is, courtesy of Tom Hodden. Okay, Jamie, are you ready for these?
Okay, I'm focused. Ready.
Now, Who wins? Number 1, the shootout, Tex Tucker or Lone-Handed 90?
Tex Tucker.
Oh, okay. Who wins the freestyle rap battle, Atlanta or Penelope?
Oh, well, it would have been Zelda, but Penny.
Who wins the punt race, Alec Freeman or Parker?
Oh, Parker.
You think? Yeah. Number 4, who wins the 1,000-yard staring competition, Captain Scarlet or Martin Landau?
Ooh, Scarlet.
And finally, who wins on karaoke night, voice of the Podsterons or the cast of Twizzle?
Donald Gray, Mr. Podsterons.
There you go. And that's a very special Quickfire 5, courtesy of Tom Hodden.
That one wasn't too bad because in the first instance I got to shoot Joe 90.
Ah, yes, always a plus, isn't it?
That's a win-win. Oh, that was a Joe 90 pun, wasn't it? WIN.
Oh,
Get
very
it?
good. Honestly,
come on fire for that
a genius
moment.
in your own lunchtime. Yeah.
Well, speaking of my own lunchtime, I'm actually rather hungry.
Yes.
And seeing as you have sort of taken over pretty much for the interviewing and I've done nothing for a few weeks, do you mind if I just go and grab some lunch and maybe you could pass me a couple of beers from over there while you do your interview thing?
Well, then, here you go. I'll just open the fridge and... is that one right for you?
Oh, yeah, lovely. Thank you.
I've opened it and I've taken a slug already, but you're welcome to finish it.
Backwash.
Yeah.
Will you get on with it and introduce your interview, please?
Well, now, this will be the second part of my interview with Glasgow-based comedian, actress and writer Lubna Kerr, who I hooked up with on Twitter. She told us last week about her formative experiences of watching Joe 90 as a young girl, and she, in this part, tells us a little bit more about her career, how she got involved with comedy, and, perhaps, what the future might hold for her.
Ooh.
What do you like about improv? I mean, that scares me to death. You know, I have to have a script. I have to have the lines written down so I can learn them, and I have to be told where to move. What do you love about improv so much?
I suppose you can take the story in any direction you want it to go, and there's not a wrong answer. You know, and you don't. And if you forget your lines, it doesn't matter because there are no lines to learn. You just have to work with your team. So it's always yes and. So you move forward. You never contradict the person that you're working with.
Yeah.
So I love that part of it. And I love creating stories. So I've written my first short play. I've got another one that I'm thinking that I'm going to be doing research for. And then in 2013, I trained to stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And that came as a sort of, my mum died that year and I needed a distraction from the grieving process. And I'd been thinking about doing stand-up because as a Scottish Pakistani female actress, wasn't enough. I needed a USP.
Right, okay.
You know, what else can I do that's going to make me stand out?
Yeah.
So I started to do stand-up. And I remember the very first day, it was a weekend course and I hadn't read the fine print. And I hadn't booked online. It was very last minute. I'd booked over the phone Friday night. The course was on the Saturday. And I thought it was a writing course. Lesson 1, read what you're going in for.
Yes,
so I went through the course and the guy says, brilliant coach, Lewis, absolute brilliant coach, said, are you all ready for your gig tomorrow night? And I'm like, what gig? It's like, you know, when you signed up online, it said, you'll do a gig on the Sunday night. And I'm like, sure, the fine print. So, you know, when you look back in your life and you think, where could it have gone in a different direction?
Yeah.
Like probably in every episode of Joe, you know, of Joe 90, I could have gone in a different direction.
Yes, that's right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what my life was like. Could I have gone in a different direction? And I could have said, yeah, you know what? I don't care about the £100 that I've just paid. Fine, I'll leave. But I didn't. I stayed and I loved it.
Yeah.
So it's about being brave. And I suppose that's what Gerry's characters are all about, whether it's Captain Scarlet or Lady Penelope or, you know, the Tracy family.
Yes,
it's all about being brave and being adventurous and putting themselves out there and taking risks.
Yeah, yeah. That's very interesting.
Life's about risks. So I was then reintroduced to Joe 90 when my children were growing up.
Right. So you then had the opportunity to share it with them, did you?
Yes,
right.
Very much so. And then, you know, buying the Tracy Island. Oh my God, the Tracy Island. Where were you? And this was like before internet. So you couldn't sort of Google and say, before Google or anything, you could Google and say, oh, where can I get Tracy Island from? You know, because...
So, and when would that have been then? Would that have been the sort of the early 90s resurgence?
Late 90s. Late 90s.
Because there was a year in that decade where, again, Tracy Island, I think, was the biggest Christmas toy of the year.
Yeah, sorry, actually, you're right. Early 90s. It was late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, absolutely. And And so you would be literally traveling around Scotland because somebody had told you that somebody had told them that somebody had told them.
Yes.
It was a crazy
Well,
island.
Lubna, what you could have done is simply watched Blue Peter, and you would have seen Anthea Turner making one of her own that you could have made out of toilet roll and fairy liquid bottles and all sorts.
I did see that. And I'm like, Richard, I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler. Okay. So there's no way. I didn't want to disappoint my children. Do you know, everybody was getting this island, and then they were getting the jet air car as well.
Yes.
Everybody was getting that. And oh my God, I loved that as a child. I just thought that was it was like hovercraft, wasn't it?
That's
Hovercraft.
right, exactly, yes.
And
it's a great design.
Why have we not got that now?
It's disappointing, isn't it?
Where is Elon Musk when you need him?
That's right. I think Joe 90, is set about 2012, 2013, I think. So we should be there by now, shouldn't we?
We should be, absolutely. So I loved the concept of having the fact that you could just lift your wheels up and you could just float on air.
Yeah.
I think there should be a petition into the government. I know they've got other things to do at the moment, but really, why don't we put in a petition to say, where is a jet air car? Why has it not been discovered yet?
That's right.
And it could run on electricity as well. So, friendly.
Yes, very eco-friendly. Absolutely. So you had the opportunity, perhaps, did you, to revisit some of this stuff in the 90s with your own children. Did you get a sense there of how well it had weathered the test of time or not? Or were you busy doing other things as they watched?
I'm a mixture. A mixture of, I wanted to revisit my childhood, but I also had to cook the tea. So, but it was interesting to watch it through their eyes, because as an adult, then, all the things that we've discussed about, should they really be watching this? I mean, is this an 18, because they're not playing, I'm not allowing them to play these PS4 or PS, whatever they're called. The first game, because, but actually they're blowing people up.
That's right, yes. I think in one episode, Joe actually does murder somebody. I think he throws a grenade at them and kills them. A 9-year-old boy. But different times, perhaps different thoughts.
I think it's life, though, Richard. It's like, and I thought, well, it didn't harm me.
Yeah.
I'm not going about throwing grenades anywhere, killing people. So, I beg to differ with the people who criticise it. I think that children are very adaptable. They take everything in their stride. And what doesn't kill them? It's like, well, this is what happens in life.
Yeah.
Just grasp it, accept it. You know that you're not going to be doing it, but that's what happens.
We love it, Jamie and I, when these Gerry Anderson shows are sort of passed on to a new generation. Obviously, there are those of us who grew up with them, and perhaps to us, there's the great pull of nostalgia. But it's always great to see kids who are happy to sit down and watch them as well.
Absolutely.
But did you get that sense of nostalgia as well? People very often talk, the music and the opening titles and so on. It takes you right back to when you were 6. Were you taken back to that those stolen moments with that TV and that?
Absolutely. Took me back to those stolen. And in fact, I was telling the children the story about how we used to creep in, and almost our like my mum didn't know either. But then it also brought me back to, watching it through. My father died actually very young at 45. So every time I watch Joe 90, I think of my father because of he's scientist and the glasses and and so it's just, and the stories were it's like goodies and baddies. It was very clear cut, and then like with. Was it Captain Black, who then becomes a baddie?
Yes, Captain Scarlet, yes.
And Captain Scarlet, and he was a goodie, but then he gets...
Yeah, Mysteronized, yes.
Yes, that's the word, Mysteronized, yes. And again, there's all of the different programs that Gerry made, there's always this influence about the mind, isn't there? It's about how you can be influenced on how your mind can be influenced, and then your behavior changed. And I love that. Yeah. And had I realized that when I was 9, I would have become a psychologist.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. And so, what sort of stuff do you find yourself watching now? In lockdown, people have turned to Netflix in great numbers. Is there anything that's caught your eye over recent months?
I really haven't had that much time.
Good for you.
Because I just stand up at night. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what I have watched. I watched Queen's Gambit, which I absolutely loved. I love chess, and I love just, the era it was set in, and again, the psychology behind it.
Yes.
Very
Absolutely.
psychological drama. That's what I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
I did watch The Crown before lockdown, and then I never got into this current series because I sort of lived through Diana growing up, and I felt really sorry for her, and I thought, I can't watch this. And I lived through the Thatcher era. I thought, I don't want to watch this. So it's too slow. I didn't. Yeah. I thought what was really sad was that Charles always loved Camilla.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really, really, really unfair what the Queen Mother and what Charles's uncle, Lord Mountbatten, did. I thought it was totally, absolutely unfair.
Right.
And, Pakistani families get criticised for, forced marriages. Well, the only forced marriage out there was Charles and Diana.
Yeah, sure.
We have introductions.
Yes.
We get to meet the people, and dress them up. So I did actually. I watched Bridgerton.
Oh yes,
you watched Bridgerton?
I know. I've heard of it.
So I'm a real Julia Quinn fan. I've read her books for years. I know them inside out. If I love something, I'll read it over and over again. So each of her books I have probably read 5 or 6 times. And what I loved about the series is that it's so diverse in its casting.
Yeah, sure.
I have never seen a TV show that's absolutely... So Duke of Hastings is played by an Afro-Caribbean guy.
Yeah.
And I read that book so many times, it just wasn't in my imagination, and I loved it for that. Yeah. So the next, so then there's 8 episodes. So the first season is just about one book. So season 2 will be about, it's a family of an aristocratic family of 8 children, starting. They're all alphabetically named. So from Anthony down to Hyacinth. Right? Okay. Yeah. Everybody in between. So Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne. Oh God, Eloise. Gregory and Hyacinth. Yeah, God, I'm missing.
Well done. Yeah.
So season 2 will be about Anthony getting married because he's the eldest. He needs to produce heirs, and I won't tell you the story, but there's a sort of a bit like Stingray when there's the love triangle.
Yes, very good. So, yeah,
a bit like that. So
I see.
So Anthony, there'll be a love triangle, and I want to play the love interest's mother.
Okay.
I'm putting out Sheffield now.
Very good. Now, so Lubna, I mean, how do you see yourself, or is that perhaps an unfair question? Are you a writer, an actor, stand-up comic? Where do you position yourself, or are you all things?
I'm all things.
Yeah.
I've recently started writing opinion pieces as well. I've written for the Scotsman and for the Sunday Times. Yeah. So I suppose I am an actress who then also does stand-up, who also then writes and who write plays, and who I'm a performer basically.
Yeah.
So that, a performer, that sort of covers everything. And writing opinion pieces, asking for my opinion, oh my God, that's just the best job.
Getting paid for it. That's right. Yeah.
It can never be wrong because it's your opinion, you know. So I love being in the creative world. I've always had a creative direction in life, even when I've got a PhD. So even in my PhD, it was very creative. My master's, I specialised in diabetes, so it's a very creative way of designing a project there around culturally appropriate education for people who have type 2 diabetes, because there's a much greater prevalence in people who come from a South Asian background. Yeah. So even everything I've done in my life, Richard, has always been creative in some shape or form. But I've spent a lot of my life helping people, being, working for the NHS. I've always helped people. And so when it came to 2010 and I had that time to reflect and say, what do I want to do? I thought it was time to help me. Yeah. And, and it's like, not that I'm still part-time for the NHS and I love it, but, there comes and then you're a daughter, a sister, a mother, a wife, a friend, a volunteer,
But who are you?
Yeah. And when do you get the time to be you? Yeah. I don't want to be, I'll always be the children's mother. I'll always be an ex-wife. I'll always be a sister. I'll always be a friend. I'll always be a mentor, a volunteer. But when do I get to be me? Yeah. And this is my time and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I cannot fault any of it. I just love the diversity of my life. I am even during lockdown, I'm one of these really annoying people who is always positive. And I mean, as much as I love people, I love being with people. I love talking. I love listening. I do mentoring as well. I'm a life coach.
Great.
So so that obviously I've been very busy.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah,
And I have struggled not being able to, physically be in presence of people, because I think when you're in presence, there's an energy that you give off. And people absorb that energy. Whether it's you can also then, it works also in the way that you then are not getting people's toxic energy either.
Right, yes, sure. Yeah.
So it works both ways.
Yeah.
But then you feed off people's positive energy as well. So I think that has been a struggle. But honestly, I have had so many opportunities in lockdown. I've been on the radio countless times, Radio Scotland, Radio Manchester, 5 Live, Radio Ulster. As I said, I've written his opinion pieces. I got funding from Scottish Arts Club to develop my play, a short play, 2019, called Tick Box. And it's a semi-autobiographical story about my mum's journey coming over here.
Yeah, I see.
What it was like for her. And then also my journey. And that's where my journey as a 9-year-old compared to Joe 90's journey.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And it's lovely to have that comparison of, I chose it to be my mother's journey because I'm playing all the parts as a one-woman show, so it's easier to play my mother than it is to play my father.
Yeah.
But, that you can see the parallel with Joe and his father and the journey that he goes on with his father.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And the journey that I have with my mother.
Yeah.
So the play's called Tick Box. It's only 20 minutes. I got funding to do that. So at the moment I'm writing the application form to do the next part of the play, to make it a full-length play, and I'll take that. And then I was asked by the Edinburgh Multicultural Festival to perform my short play, and they paid me.
Lovely.
And then brilliant to get paid during the pandemic. It's absolutely amazing. But I was then able to work with a dramaturge and the director, and we got it filmed, and it's just been brilliant. Honestly, I cannot fault the opportunities. I'm really, really grateful to God for all the opportunities that have come my way. And then I've been so as you know, because that's how we met on Twitter. I've been so active in social media as well. And I think that's been the new way of making friends.
Yes, I agree. And certainly this year, it's really coming to its own, isn't it?
Absolutely. Not so much Facebook. I joined Facebook in 2015, really for my comedy.
Yeah.
But Twitter is just so different. You meet, but it's so funny. So I have an audition, a read through for Back to Life with Daisy Haggard.
Oh yes.
So I didn't know the program, so I was Googling, Back to Life on Monday night, and saw that she was a writer, creator, blah, blah, blah. Right? So on my timeline today on Twitter, right, who comes up but Daisy Haggard, right?
Oh.
The algorithms are just amazing.
Weird.
What are the chances of that? And I'm wasn't following or anything. So I was Googling Joe 90 last night. So I'm so intrigued to see
who knows who's going to pop up in a week or so.
I just hope he's single. That's all I wish.
Well, Lubna, thank you so much for sharing some of your journey with us here on the Gerry Anderson podcast. Now, if people do want to get in touch or make some sort of contact with you, see what you're up to, where can we find you? What are your socials and websites and so on?
So my social is at Lubna Kerr on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook. And I have a website, www.lubnakerr.co.uk. Catch me in that.
Great.
That's and you can Google me and you'll find lots of bits and pieces about me. But it's been a pleasure.
Well,
I'm so grateful for you, Richard. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've had a ball. I really have. Thank you.
Thanks, Lubna, and I hope to see you in the flesh sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
There.
Wow.
Thank you
what a lovely
so
chat.
much to Lubna. Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Lubna, for taking the time out to talk to us here on the podcast. And good luck with all your future endeavours. Yeah, you can follow her, as she says there, on Twitter and keep up to date with where she'll be appearing when hopefully things open up again over the summer. And do go and see her if you can.
Well, thank you, Richard, for that. And thank you, Lubna. I think I've had quite enough rest time now.
Yes, I should cocoa.
You and Ben have done a great job on the interviews over the last few weeks, but I think it's time.
Exhausted.
I'm not surprised. I think it's time I should get back in the hot seat.
Yeah, good.
So I spoke at length to one Mr. Jeremy Hitchin. Now, Jeremy, you will probably know best as Dr. Neinstein from Terrorhawks. He is a rather marvellous actor, raconteur.
Bon viveur. Bon viveur. I just made that up.
He's a bon viveur, yes. He is. And also a bon viveur.
Yes.
And a very nice chap. And I spoke to him from his lockdown accommodation in Scotlandshire. And I think we'll probably have 3 parts of that because, we had such a lovely chat and it went on for ages. But
Great.
Me and Jeremy Hitchin next week. But thank you very much, Dickie and Ben, for your interviews to date. Now,
not at all. Pleasure.
have you got anything else you wish to impart from around the Podsteron universe?
Well, I mean, there's always things to impart from around the Podsteron universe. For example, I went onto YouTube the other day and had a look at the Gerry Anderson channel and took a look at some of the comments. Some of the comments beneath our podcast. Now, beneath Pod 147, Ian Dealey posted, I quite enjoyed Richard James's interview with Stephen Gallagher, a very good writer with a love for all things Anderson. I'm assuming he's referring to Stephen Gallagher there. Keith Gooch, another great episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast with all the usual banter between Richard and Jamie. I loved this week's Fab Fact about the magnificent Sybil Danning. I hope there's a video as well as audio when this Fab Fact is posted on YouTube, he says. The second part of the interview with Stephen Gallagher was interesting. What an amazing career he's had. And I have to agree with Chris Dale that the randomiser choice this week, the Four Feather Falls episode Teething Trouble, wasn't the best of that particular series, but he did make a good go of making it enjoyable with his hilarious commentary. Good work, guys. Looking forward to Pod 148 now. Count me in, says Keith, for NFTs. I have a few Anderson poker chips in my collection, so NFTs would fit in great.
Well, I've had a few emails from fans about NFTs, and we are going to be doing some things around Anderson-related NFTs in due course. If NFT doesn't mean anything to you, if you hear NFT and think NFI, then, what I can tell you is that it stands for non-fungible tokens.
Right.
Essentially, it's a digital record of something. And that could be a digital record of owning a piece of collectible, a bit of art, a bit of concept art. But we're thinking about potentially using NFTs as an equivalent of a kind of digital certificate of authenticity for stuff. They're really interesting, but they're not quite ready for mass consumer market yet. But we're working with people who are making them so stand by for NFT action.
Great. And finally for now, Darren Lodge posted beneath Pod 146 on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel. This has been a very good podcast.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm glad you think so.
Which sounds a bit final. Like that's all he's going to listen to now. This has been a very good podcast, and I've had enough.
And I'm off. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before you go...
Oh, yes.
Don't forget, we've got the randomiser.
Of course we have.
And everybody loves it. And Chris does a great job of turning great episodes into even better ones with his commentary, or dull episodes or terrible ones into amusing, anecdote-packed, observation-filled 20-minute, half-hour slots. So,
true.
Should we let him do one of those observation-filled, anecdote-packed slots?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Okay, Chris, over to you and your big red button.
Quick!
Oh, my head. Well, either that was the best darn Gerry Anderson day ever, or we've been kidnapped by... Oh, it's the latter. Hello, whatever your name is.
So these are the Earth people. What a puny lot.
Oh, well, that's hardly a nice welcome, is it, Marina? I mean, what do you really know about me, for instance?
Pink and flabby.
Oh, okay, so quite a bit.
I think we'll conduct a few experiments.
On what? Not on us? Oh, right, you mean the randomiser here.
It is the prize of the universe, and it will soon be ours.
Oh, well, you're welcome to it, mate. I assume you do know how to work it. You just push the...
Silence, Earthman. We do not need your help. We are a superior race.
Ah, okay, thought so.
A fascinating plaything. Most ingenious. The Earthmen are not as stupid as I thought.
Well, actually, it was built by a very clever Earthman indeed. Not me, I hasten to add. Anyway, let's see what we've got today. Okay, well, it's Captain Scarlet with...
He's really interesting.
Yes, with...
Nothing pink and flabby about him.
No, I suppose not. With Seek and Destroy.
What do you say to that, pink people?
So, welcome back to Captain Scarlet on the Randomiser, and indeed welcome to a rather special instalment actually for the Randomiser. You see, I'm watching this series at the moment, and I have saved Seek and Destroy, having seen it come up in my list of upcoming Randomiser episodes. I have saved it to watch with all of you today. And if you're wondering what order I'm actually watching the series on this rewatch, I started out with the broadcast order, which is the sort of default DVD and Blu-ray order these days. Then I decided that actually I'd rather prefer to watch it in ITC recommended order, because that was the first order I ever saw it in. So I switched halfway, which if you know anything about the episode order of these things, is it's not really a compatible way to view the series. So I'm actually watching Seek and Destroy in between Fire at Rig 15 and Flight to Atlantica, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but there we go. So you're very welcome to join me on my Captain Scarlet rewatch.
On your way.
Mr. Fairfield, someone's been bugging me.
What's that?
Well, the managing director of a company doesn't usually supervise the loading.
I told you before, there's a lot of money involved.
Right. You say these crates contain millions of dollars worth of equipment, and I just drive them out and dump them, miles from anywhere. What gives?
Listen, Jackson, you're paid to drive, so get going.
All right. Sorry I asked.
Yep, so I waffled all over the loading of this truck. This is a Fairfield... is it Fairfield Aircraft Company? Mr. Fairfield himself is supervising the loading of this very, very large crate onto an even larger truck. As you heard, the truck driver is a bit bemused by the whole thing. Fairfield Engine Company, that's it. And this truck is just one of those incredible Super Marionation design ideas that would be completely impractical in real life. It just takes up the entire road. Although there is a car parked in the lay-by here. And I believe this truck cab set is probably a reworking of the nuclear transporter from Big Ben Strikes Again. Arriving at an empty warehouse in the middle of nowhere. And I love this music as well, this .783 theme, which doesn't quite fit the sort of subject matter of transporting cargo from a company, but it's just so glorious. It makes anything seem important and grand. That's it, dumped the crate alongside a couple of other crates in this warehouse. The driver's still a bit suspicious of what's going on here. Meanwhile, another car has pulled up outside.
Worth millions? I wonder.
Thinking of looking inside?
Oh, that's such a cool shot of Black.
No, I was just checking.
Good, Jackson. I like a man who can keep a secret.
Sure. Oh, sure. I can keep my mouth shut.
I know you will, Earthman.
And that's it for Mr. Jackson. Black's having a good day so far, and he does look very cool in the black jacket and the black shades. He doesn't always wear shades that often. There we go, chucking down a bottle of gasoline on a floor that already seems to have gasoline on it, which I never quite understood. He's going to torch the place.
This is the voice of the Podsterons. We will continue to take our revenge. You started the shockwave with the attack on our Martian complex. This act of aggression will be avenged. We intend to kill one of the Spectrum Angels. Spectrum Angels, one of you will die.
That feels like one of those sort of new Doctor Who things. Someone will die, but not really. And yeah, that's I think one of the one of my main problems with this episode, and as we're going to discover as we go along, unfortunately, I'm not the hugest fan of this one. But I do like that sort of, not sting, but the sound of the familiar angel music in the fire as one side of one of the crates collapses and we see one of the interceptors. We find out, aha, that's what's in this warehouse. Angel interceptors.
Well, gentlemen, you've heard the latest Podsteron threat. They intend to try and kill one of the angels.
Yes, Colonel, we've heard.
And with Destiny on vacation in Paris, she's the most likely target.
I think you're right.
Paris is a scary place.
Contact her without success.
I just called the hotel again, Colonel, but she's still not there.
Well, there's only one thing for it. Captain Scarlet, Captain Blue, I want you to fly to Paris immediately.
Yes, sir.
SIG, Colonel.
Destiny Angel must be escorted back to the comparative safety of Cloud Base.
I love the use of his word comparative there. It's like, yeah, well, this place is a bit of a death trap, but it's got to be safer than Paris. Oh, dear. So, yeah, I don't know why Destiny wouldn't have some kind of communicator on her. I know she doesn't have a Spectrum Cat mic, but you'd think they would have, like, a portable thing at times like this.
The hotel first.
Right. She may be back.
Wherever she is, we've got to find her before the Podsterons.
And she's staying in, she's staying in this building that cropped up a few times in Scarlet. I think this is one of those trans-TV towers from Thunderbirds Argo, from a deleted scene in Thunderbirds Argo, which was reused quite a bit throughout Scarlet and Joe. She also appears to be staying in the bedroom occupied by the Director General of the United Asian Republic from Winged Assassin.
Destiny?
Director General? Yeah, same bed, same mirror.
No luck. She's not here.
Well, if I know Destiny, she's probably out shopping.
Because woman.
Wait, what's this on the table? Café de la Paix.
Matchbook.
Lead. Let's check it out.
So we're reusing some
Turn right at
French street things here from previous episodes. Oh, and I believe this cafe exterior that we're finding Destiny at now, curiously enough, the waiter who's watching her is the Director General of the United Asian Republic. Yeah, I believe the exterior of this cafe is the one from Thunderbird's Perils of Penelope. Anyway, Destiny
très jolie.
Has been shopping because, you know, she's a woman. And that was a sort of
like an angel.
Unexpected bit of, well, I suppose not sexism, but sort of sexual stereotyping for this show, which it very rarely did.
The Colonel will be relieved.
I'll get her.
I suppose if they'd gone on holiday, we would have seen them
Destiny
trying to close their suitcases, and they would all have had 10 suitcases each because woman.
The Angel.
Is she safe?
Yes, she's fine. Captain Scarlet's with her now.
Good. Drive straight to the airport. I want you all back on Cloud Base as soon as possible.
I'm going to give you all a big hug.
The Podsterons have threatened to kill one of the angels.
Kill one of us?
I'm afraid so. Captain Blue and I have orders to escort you back to Cloud Base immediately.
Human hand helped Destiny up there.
Oh, wait. My parfum.
I'm starting to see human hands more and more now. I think you can kind of sense when a hand is there helping the puppets along.
But they don't make hollow threats.
And it's not just in HD. I'm starting to notice it in SD things as well. Anyway, back at the warehouse, lots of vehicles from Thunderbirds have come to put out the fire.
Fast as possible, but it was no use. The fire was out of control.
Thank you, Chief. I'm sure you did everything possible.
Now, the whole warehouse and its contents is a complete write-off. Was there any highly combustible content in the crates?
The crates contained aircraft for the Spectrum organization.
I see.
The design is top secret. No one factory holds a complete set of drawings. My plant is responsible for the manufacture of the engine. When they've been fitted to the aircraft, I crate them up and leave them in this warehouse. The next company is the last in line. They pick them up for final flight test, spraying, and delivery to Cloud Base.
I like this idea as well, that they're produced in stages. Again, it's a callback to
there obviously will have to be a full investigation.
What we saw in Thunderbirds, that the Thunderbird machines were assembled by buying components from different companies.
Hey, they were low enough and fast. What were they?
If I didn't know better, I'd say they were those 3 Angel aircraft destroyed in the fire.
Uh-oh. And it's nice as well that because they're not finished, they've not been sprayed yet. They are just this gunmetal grey. There's the Podsteron rings. And there was something recently where this Fairfield Electronics thing came up. What was... Oh, right. Yeah, that. Yeah, that thing. Let's just say there's new Gerry Anderson stuff happening right now. Maybe.
The 3 Angel aircraft and the warehouse were completely destroyed.
There's no doubt.
Oh, let me check. Oh, no, wait, they weren't completely destroyed. What was I thinking of there?
I have a feeling this is the work of the Podsterons.
He says that about everything. But yeah, in the grey colours as well, these Mysteronized angels do look very sinister.
We'll be at the airport in about 15 minutes.
SIG, Captain Blue.
Captain Scarlet, is anything wrong?
I don't know. I just have a feeling that we're in danger. Did anything unusual...
And this was one of his abilities that didn't last too long into the series. So as I said, watching this between Rig 15 and Atlantica, it's a bit strange seeing this again here.
Some danger, and it's very near.
It wouldn't be that perfume you got.
Stop the car.
What?
I can't explain, Captain. Just stop the car. Get out of the car and take cover.
I don't understand.
Don't argue, just do as I say.
Oh, that's a lovely shot. I like in, I think this is a thing that you see in Thunderbird 6 and also quite a bit in this show. Aerial shots of aircraft flying from above the aircraft looking down on the countryside. Those are gorgeous. Anyway, Scarlet and Co are now in a ditch at the side of the road.
They're Podsteron's destiny, and they're carrying out their threat.
Under attack from the Podsteron Angel Jets.
Thank you, Captain Scarlet. I understand the situation.
I think.
The Podsterons have taken over 3 Angel aircraft, and these are now flying booby traps. Lieutenant.
Yes, sir?
Launch all Angels.
But, Colonel, the Podsteron threat...
Get them skyborne, Lieutenant.
I like that as well. It's like, how can you send the Angels into combat when you know there's a threat against them? This is... it wasn't just destiny. This was like a plan within a bigger plan. We thought one of them was just in danger. Now we're potentially looking at losing 4 of them. Everybody but Symphony, in fact. Melody, Harmony, and Rhapsody are off to the rescue.
Colonel White, the Podsteron jets are still overflying the area.
Well, what do you want me to do about it, Captain?
Spectrum Angels are on their way.
Yay! I like as well the occasional moments we cut back to the Angels and there's proper heroic music.
At our present speed, we should be at the grid reference in 4 minutes.
SIG, Melody.
I also love the shots of the Angel cockpit. One of the characters talking, and you see a model of another Angel being flown alongside them. Lovely attention to detail.
This is Colonel White. You are about to engage 3 aircraft identical in every detail to your own. They have already made one unsuccessful attempt to kill Destiny. I know that you would rather meet them in straight combat than wait on Cloud Base for an attack. I have absolute faith in your ability and ultimate victory.
Thank you, Colonel White.
I adore that moment. I don't know what it is. I think just for once the Colonel seems genuine in his sort of crazy speeches that he gives. It's also rare to see him properly praising any of the Spectrum personnel. And I also find that as the years go by, although Rhapsody has always been my favourite of the Angels, and I think she always will be, I really find I'm starting to like Melody more and more. I think Sylvia does a really good job with that character and making her different from obviously Penelope.
That was just a rangefinder.
I've heard some criticism of this episode saying, oh, it's all about Destiny, but not really, because she's stuck in a ditch for most of the episode.
Like this is it.
No, look.
So it's nice that there is a focus on Angels other than her. And Melody's in charge here.
Destiny, Captain Blue, and Captain Scarlet are near the wrecked Spectrum Saloon. The Podsteron jets must not be allowed to attack them.
SIG, Melody.
And I have heard some people say that they don't immediately recognise that is the same woman who did the voice of Penelope. And I think I really like Melody.
Here they come.
I wish she had more to do, really. So now the Angels are engaging in combat with the Podsteron Angels. 3 of them, and 3 on the other team.
Keep your heads down.
Oh, that was a fire and a miss from Melody.
That easy.
So who's going to get the first kill in here? Well, it looks like Harmony might just do it. Harmony, who I don't think is anybody's favourite of the Angels. I could be wrong if there are some Harmony fans out there. I do hope there are, because she's just shot down the first of the Podsteron jets. Good old Harmony.
1 down, 2 to go.
Oh, I'd give anything to be up there with them. I feel so helpless, just sitting here.
Now, going back to something that I believe I mentioned in passing earlier, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this episode. In fact, when Captain Scarlet came out on DVD,
These little old sights.
back in 2001, I have never looked forward to a DVD release more than I had of this show when it first came out.
Bandit on your tail, Melody.
SIG Rhapsody. It's not polite to creep up behind a lady.
Oh, there we go. Melody, you are so cool. Why don't more people love Melody? Yeah, this is a very fun thing she does here, where she does the loop and comes back down behind the Podsteron jet. Anyway, yes, going back to the DVD release, it was due out on a Monday, and for some reason, whoever I ordered through, I think I ordered through Black Star. Do you remember Black Star in the UK? They were a very nice company to order from. I remember one Christmas they sent out VHS copies of It's a Wonderful Life to all their regular buyers, which must have cost them a pretty penny. Anyway, the release was due out on the Monday. I didn't actually get mine through the post until the Friday. It was a long old week waiting for that set to arrive. But then, once I got it on the Friday, I think I must have rewatched the whole series over the course of that weekend, just revisiting all of those wonderful memories of this show from my childhood. And I am almost certain that this is the episode I left until last. Not because it was one of my favourites and I wanted to save the best till last, but because I just wanted to see the best ones first. I think I watched them in a largely random order, jumping all over the place. But I'm pretty sure this was the last one I got to. I might even have seen The Inquisition.
I have been hit.
Harmony's down. I might even have watched The Inquisition before watching this one, possibly just to get that one out of the way. But I kind of look at The Inquisition and think, it's not really an episode as such. At least it's not one you can compare to the other 31 realistically. I'm pretty sure this was the last one I looked at, because
Here comes another one.
I didn't have any hugely fond memories of it, which is not to say that it is not a superb technical
SIG Harmony.
achievement, but
Oh no, you don't.
it gets so samey. As I said, even this show is not going to kill one of the Angels. At least not until Attack on Cloudbase. So it's rather, we know no one's really going to be in danger, for one thing. But also, just the endless flying, the endless effect shots. And I feel bad for saying that, because these effects are just gorgeous to look at. This is some superb work. But,
1 to go.
I think the human element is completely lost in this episode. I mean, Scarlet and Blue and Destiny, they can't do anything. They're stuck in a ditch by the side of the road. So we just have this seemingly endless parade of aerial footage, which, as I say, is superbly produced, but it is very repetitive. We know the Angels are going to shoot down the Podsteron jets, and we have to sit through watching them do that 3 times. Okay, there's a couple of bits where the Podsterons kind of outthink or outsmart the Angels and all. They have to change their tactics. But like here, there's no dialogue. There's not even any music with this. So as gorgeous as it looks, I find this so unengaging, the second half of this episode. And also the fact that the Podsteron jets are obviously unmanned. We don't even have like an antagonist as such, which I suppose is something a bit different. it is quite a striking image having these cockpits with nobody at the controls. But it's just... I'm not engaged. And I never have been engaged by this. I don't think even as a kid I was...
They're diving too fast. They're not going to pull out.
Yeah, even as a kid I wasn't gripped by this. And I'm sorry, I'm really sorry to say that. I'm really sorry to say that about any Captain Scarlet episode, that it doesn't do anything for me. But this really doesn't. Anyway, the last Mysteron jet has crashed into a house. Melody has got to pull out of this dive. And she has. She also seemed to be passing over some stock footage from Thunderbirds I'll Go.
Only Melody could have pulled out of that dive. She's a great pilot.
Hey, here's another member of the Melody Angel fan club. I hope there's more than just the two of us as members.
Melody Angel, what's the situation?
I am awesome.
Mission complete, Colonel. All Mysteron jets destroyed. One Angel aircraft lost, but Harmony ejected safely.
SIG, Melody.
I also find it interesting with the Angels, seeing them seeing how each one copes in a position of being in charge.
Oh, well, let's get going. It's a long walk to Cloud Base.
And here it comes. Oh, I hate that music in any Anderson show, and I really hate it in Captain Scarlet. Thankfully, it was only used once. Anyway, that was Seek and Destroy, and, it's never ever going to be one of my favourites by a long way, and I feel so bad for saying that. I mean, especially as this is an episode where the effects team was headed up by the recently departed Sean Whittaker Cook, who headed the model department in multiple episodes of this, and Joe and UFO and Secret Service, who died in January. But I think, as I've said, the effects just completely overwhelm this episode, gorgeous as they are. So I think being able to look at this episode and say, this is the worst one of the series, aside from the Inquisition, is a bad thing for me to say, because I don't want to say that about any episode of any Anderson show, much less Scarlet. But I think that being able to look at something as superbly produced as this, as technically just awesome as this, and say, this isn't the best installment, just speaks to the sheer quality of the rest of this series. In any other show, this would be, my goodness, throw every award at it. In a show as awesome as the rest of Scarlet is, this doesn't really have much to work with, unfortunately.
Oh,
Another
well done, Chris.
Marvellous randomiser from the randomiser
Classic.
general himself, Chris Dale.
Yep.
And you could follow Chris on the internet.
Really?
Via a service called Twitter.
I've heard of it.
And you can find him at symbol Chris Dalek.
Yes.
So there you go. And tweet him your thanks and praise and gags and stuff.
Oh, yeah, he'd love that. And also, of course, you can listen to his podcast within the podcast, because he's got his very own podcast, the Randomiser podcast, aside from the Randomiser in the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Ah, it's like a meta podcast, but it's not a meta podcast because it's within the podcast, isn't it? What's that equivalent? An intracast?
It's a bit like one of those roasts that you have at Christmas, which has got like three birds inside another bird.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
It's a bit
that's
like
true,
that.
Yeah. Anyway, so you can search for the Gerry Anderson Randomiser on your podcast app of choice and find that there if you would like to just enjoy the Randomiser without me and Richard talking over it.
Fair enough. Now, Jamie, as you might imagine, your Sybil Danning fab fact from a few weeks ago went down rather well with a certain demographic. James Beach says, I desperately want to know Gerry and Sylvie Anderson's views on what they thought about all their top shows being turned into feature lengths with music added and scenes cut out. When Terrorhawks was released onto VHS, all 5 vids were episodes put together. Let me know if you have those answers. Gerry never once mentioned the feature lengths when I saw him at his convention in Torquay, Easter Sunday 1992. Easter Sunday, that is, not Easter Sunday 1992. So, do we know what they felt about that?
I mean, I think David Hirsch talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But, it was the done thing at the time. Loads of things were put into TV movie compilations. It was just a thing to recycle content and to fill up some time slots on telly and sell some VHS tapes. So I don't think he was particularly bothered or particularly precious about it. And it's not like the horrendous turbocharged Thunderbirds that they had on, was it Fox Kids?
Right,
in the 90s. I mean, that was a dreadful mess, and I think Dad was not happy about that. But TV movies, fine.
Aspectify posted on YouTube, I like the idea of a scantily clad Sybil Danning promising sexy action and adventure, segueing into a series of boardroom meetings of the International Lunar Commission.
Who wouldn't enjoy that?
Yeah. James posted, her dialogue sounded like neither she nor her writers had ever seen Space 1999. Most of her references were to Star Trek, as was her costume. Alex Rogan posted, why would you need to sex up Space 1999? You've already got Barry Morse, the human form of Old Spice aftershave.
Good call.
And finally, Alatina posted, Space Queen, more like Space Trollop.
Oh, all right. It's getting a bit personal. You do know she's on Twitter, Sybil Danning.
Oh, well, keep that to yourself. So, yes, you can find all the Gerry Anderson podcasts over on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel and leave your polite comments below the line.
Yes, do that.
Yes.
And we won't read out anything personal or offensive, probably.
No.
Okay,
again.
look. Not again. Now, it's the end of this one, I think, isn't it? Are we done?
I think so. Yeah, looking at my watch, I think we've just about cracked it, yeah.
I've just realised next week's 150. That's quite a milestone, isn't it?
It is quite a milestone. We're going to meet up for a meal.
It's our triple gold. Well, I don't think we're allowed to, are we? But in due course, we will be able to, and then we can celebrate. But it looks like any physical celebration of Pod 150 will be off, but we'll be celebrating next week anyway, because it is Pod 150, and that's exciting.
Yes, it is. You're right.
So I think we probably need to go and have a lie down, maybe have a little face pack, get the eye mask on.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Listen to some whale music, whale sounds, whale music. Is it whale music?
Do whales make music?
I don't know. Well, they should do. Anyway.
I shouldn't think they'd be able to reach the strings with those little flippers, would they?
They've got quite big flippers. Anyway, Richard, it's not all about size. It's about relaxation. So we're going to go and chill out ahead of next week's Pod 150. We hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you for Pod 150 next week.
Goodbye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
It's like a whale noise.
Yeah, it's whale music.
Gosh, I mean, it was so beautiful and convincing. I honestly thought that there was a whale on the line.
A man of many talents.
Could you
None of which
list
provide
them?
an income.
I was going to say. Yeah.
Sad.
I mean, your CV is pretty varied.
Yes, I'll give you that. Yes.
You've been aliens, animals, cigarettes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, teddy bears.
Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, I auditioned once for a spoon and didn't get the part, which is most annoying.
Oh, awkward.
Yeah.
Game show, talk show hosts, you've been?
Yes.
Pilots of Zero X.
I auditioned for the part of a fly and I didn't get that either.
Oh.
You see, I know, all the big ones get away from you, don't they?
It's a shame that, isn't it? You would have been a great blue bottle.
Fly. Yeah, thanks.
Pleasure.
What are you trying to say? I'm really irritating and smell of poo.
I did not say that, but you are
get
responsible for maggot infestations. So there we go. Anyway, on that note, you go off and work on your CV. I'm going to.
Thanks.
I think I'm just going to chill out now. I'm
all right.
Yeah, a bit tired after the last couple of weeks, but thanks for your support. And you, Podsterons.
You go and lie down.
Yeah, I'm off for a lie down. Okay, goodbye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.